In this video, we're going to cover how to deploy a disaster recovery passive node. So we're going to extend the cluster to provide disaster recovery. So let's go ahead and log into our engine management service. Okay. And I already have a server that's already been deployed. And as you may remember, in the deploy primary video, we deployed the test1 server. So it is sitting here, it's ready to go. Notice that there are no secondary servers or passive nodes configured or standby servers. And also it is fully licensed right now. So all I have to do is go either into the actions menu and click on add standby servers, or I can click on the button you see below and it brings up the wizard. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on our channel. We're going to configure our channel. So our channel for the production server is going to be 192.168.0.66. And also the subnet mask will default to 255.255.255.0. And then I'm going to, since this is going to be a DR, it will be at a different data center. So I'm going to put it on the 10 network at the different data center. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the DR node and we're going to configure this. So we're going to, it's going to ask us how we want to configure our IP addressing. It's going to be different than the production. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assign the new IP address, which will be 192.168.10.126. And again, we can go with the defaults, the default subnet mask. And now what we do is we select our network adapter, and that's already selected for us. If we had multiple adapters, we could select which one we're going to use. The gateway is going for the secondary site, or the DR site, will be 192.168.10.1. And our preferred DNS will be 192.168.10.10. And then we're going to give it the administrator account that will allow us to do DNS injection. So this could be either a domain administrator account, or we actually have published minimum viable permissions to create a DNS admin account. The username and password in. And then we select our cloning mechanism. So we are going to do fully automated and powered on. So remember that we have, in this environment, we do have a registered vCenter with the engine management service. Alternatively, we could use assisted mode, which means that after we're completed with this setup and deployment wizard to add a standby server for disaster recovery, then once it's completed, we could just call our VMware administrator and they can actually clone the server using the vCenter's own native tools. But in this case, we're going to use full automation using the vCenter APIs. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on automated power on, and then I'm going to select the host and data store. So I'm going to put it at my Kansas City data center, and I'm going to put it on host 3. And I will select my data store. All right, so notice that everything at the bottom turns green. It says your DR configuration is complete. So we click on the next button. It gives us a summary. We just make sure that everything is correct before we hit the finish button. And notice at the bottom here, it starts the cloning process. and a operations in progress button pops up at the top. We can click on that. And as you can see here, we begin the process of building our DR copy. So the first step is it begins configuring the production server and preparing it for cloning. It's shutting down the continuity engine services on the test 1 server. Now we're preparing to extend the cluster and add that standby server. Now we're waiting for the server to become active, the primary. And in a moment, we will start our cloning process. And now our cloning process has begun. So let's take a look at it from here. So you can see this as cloning primary and to create the secondary server. And if we go over to vCenter, notice that a new VM has been created over on the Kansas City data center. And now we're cloning this. We're about 33% into this. Okay, we're at 94%, and we should finish momentarily, which we have. And now vCenter has powered on the virtual machine. And so now we can just log into our engine management service because we've been auto logged out during this process. We can see the status of this. So now we've entered the next stage, which is to do the auto configuration. This is the process in which the secondary is now converted to a DR copy, and the entire configuration that we showed you during the wizard that allows us to add a standby server for disaster recovery, that will now take effect. So we will apply the new IP addresses into the new disaster recovery server, and we will apply the channel configuration. And this usually takes a couple minutes. While we're waiting for this, a couple things that you should be aware of. When we clone using vCenter via these APIs, generally speaking, it takes a lot longer to do the cloning operation than it would be if it was a local HA. So some patience needs to be exercised here, but it might take a little while for the virtual machine to actually finish its cloning process. In my environment, it's about 15 to 20 minutes. And others, depending on the size of the VM, it could be an hour, it could be a couple hours. Okay, Continuity Engine just started on the disaster recovery server. And in a moment, we'll see a plan execution take place where it actually is starting up all of its services, assigning the channel configuration, and start the replication process. So as you can see, the services have started on Continuity Engine on the disaster recovery passive node. Okay, and now our system is fully operational. We have replication going between the primary and secondary server at the DR site, and everything has turned green. So this completes the demonstration of how to build a standby server for disaster recovery.